on your end? All right. Good evening, everybody. We'll call this meeting to order. It's 5:01 p.m. Zoom meeting information, item A, looks like we all figured that out. Item B, roll call. Chair Seth, I am here. Vice Chair Ned Dorf.
Present.
Alder Mark Stoyer.
Here.
John Arndt.
Present.
Amy Cox.
Here.
Corey Min.
Present.
And Julia said she would be about 15 minutes late, so she's excused. And Mark Walter.
Here.
All right. And Stephanie unfortunately had to step away from the commission. We'll talk a little bit more about vacancies a little bit later here. On to approval of the agenda for today's meeting, September 21st, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
By Mark.
Walter.
Second by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed say nay. All righty then, on to approval of the minutes from our last meeting in July. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, well, it was one of the Marks.
Who
Ned
made the first motion?
had the first, and then I think Mark Walter barely beat out Mark Stoyer. It's a close contest. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right. Moving right along then, we do not have any items up for regular business, but we have a number of, I think, exciting updates, information, and then as usual, we'll have space for announcements and any work group updates. So informational item 1, board vacancies, and then upcoming term expirations. Melissa, do you want to do that, or should I?
I can, and then if you have other commentary to add.
Sounds good. Take it away.
So as the chair previously mentioned, Stephanie Dodge resigned from the Sustainability Commission. So this creates a vacancy. A new member, which there is not a new member, we do not have one in mind yet, would serve the remainder of that term, which would be until December of 2023. And then, so the way it works is this is a position that's appointed by the mayor. Term is 36 months. The member must be a resident of the city of Green Bay and have experience in the environmental field or sustainability field, or possibly have, a combination of experiences. Ideally, the person has beyond a strong passion for sustainability and environmental topics, but also some experience as well to add to the group and to be able to contribute in such a way. So if you have any ideas for people that meet that criteria, we don't need to talk, names here in the meeting or anything like that. You could contact those people. If they are interested in that, they should send a letter of interest and a resume to City Hall, to the mayor's office. They could also send it to Seth Hoffmeister, email it to Seth, and Seth's email is on the city's website. And then the mayor will look those over and make a decision. The other two terms that are quickly approaching would be Amy Cox's term. Your term expires, I believe, November of this year, because you were filling out the remainder of another member as well. And then Corey, yours also expires in November. So any members whose terms are nearing expiration should notify the chair of their intention of being reappointed. Or if you're no longer interested in serving, we would need to know that as soon as possible as well. So
All right.
that's all there is to say about that. We hope Amy and Corey continue. If that doesn't work out, then just let Seth or I know as soon as possible so that we can start getting names and resumes to the mayor's office.
Cool. Thank you, Melissa. There's no questions or other thoughts. We can move on to any work group updates.
I guess I've reached out a couple times to Dave Hansen on some of the healthy habitat updates with the night sky ordinance work that I'd still like to do this year. You know, trying to narrow it down to just looking at possibly putting a collar, continue or just codifying some of the work he's already doing, basically with streetlights, where it has some kind of shield so that it's not shining upward. So just starting there, it's work that's already being done, and I think just getting that codified, it's a best practice that he does. So language as part of an ordinance. If Dave's been pretty busy. Whoop, there goes my light. Dave's been pretty busy, hasn't been able to really work on that. So if he is unable to, I will try to reach out to a city attorney to just possibly get some language for an ordinance that we could send over to traffic or DPW. But I would like to move on that. The other thing was the non-toxic neighborhoods, and I think Corey has been working with Park Department in that group to see how we can move the process along of reducing our pesticide use, codifying some of those best practices. And it sounds like the next step, I'm going to be talking with Dan Ditchite, hopefully in the near future, to see if Park Department or our Healthy Habitat Working Group or in conjunction can draw up some kind of proposal for the city council. So that's what I have there.
Ned, I was going to ask you, me being on council, is there anything, maybe we could talk later, but just if there's anything you'd like me to help promote, push a little bit. You know, I'm in touch with Dave Hansen on a lot of other issues, but and then also with Public Works on the green infrastructure. So I'm very much into that. So if there's some way I can put a couple things along, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Hey, I appreciate that. If we keep kind of hitting some walls over the next month or so, I will definitely lean on you for some council leadership. Thank you.
You bet.
Cool. Any other work group updates? And I guess outside of, yeah, John, go ahead.
I was just going to give a little bit of the work group update for the clean energy group. So the city did accept and has received the OEI city planning grant for working towards carbon neutrality. As part of that grant, my office over at UW Green Bay committed 2 students, 1 per academic semester, and in my supervision towards working with the organization that was selected, which is called Slipstream. And that student for fall has been hired and is all set and ready to go and get started. So we are ready to start moving on our planning grant.
Excellent. I think that's a really great segue into the next part of our agenda too. Resilience Coordinator update on the Climate Action Plan and also the Green Stormwater Infrastructure Initiatives. Melissa, take it away.
Turn my sound back on. All right. So thanks, John. I'm glad you provided that update. So since last month, when the grant was approved by City Council, we've had some individual meetings with the grant partners, being the water utility. So I've met with the water utility on their portions of the plan and on Green Bay and Green Bay Metro Transit as well, and the consultant. And tomorrow afternoon, we actually have a kickoff meeting for all of the partners to come together. Chairperson Hoffmeister will also be at that meeting as well, representing the Sustainability Commission. And it's really just to go get us all together. It'll be a virtual meeting. It's not open to the public. It's basically a planning meeting to go over all of the objectives. We've also met, I've met and the consultant with NWTC as well to go over their commitments. So Amy, you know, your team has been great with all the assistance they have have committed to the city, and we've already started. The students have already started working on some of that utility data, so that's really, you know, that's just a great partnership. And I can't say thank you enough to both UWGB and to NWTC for all of that assistance. And hopefully it'll be a good experience for all of the students that are involved with that as well. So that's the first phase, is really a lot of data compilation, which is where we're at. And then public participation will come next. So we are I'm working with the consultant, and we're going to have a survey that comes out, one for residents and then a different survey for businesses in the city of Green Bay to help inform the goals of the climate action plan. So
Melissa?
I'm sorry, go
Melissa,
ahead.
I'm sorry. When is that meeting again? I'd like to sit in if I could.
It's
when is
tomorrow.
that?
It's tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Okay, is that a Zoom meeting, I presume?
It's
Zoom?
You presume wrong. It's not Zoom. It's Teams.
What? Oh, okay.
And I can send you the link after the meeting is
Send me
over.
the link. Thank you. All right.
So yeah, so it's just an hour-long meeting. We're going to go through all the roles and objectives and make sure that we're all on the same page with all of the grant partners. And that will be approximately a 1-year project. So we're hoping by next July that we have a comprehensive climate action energy plan for the citywide. And then for green infrastructure updates, the Eliza Street permeable pavers road project kicked off this week. That is due for completion probably in November. And that the portion of the street that'll be permeable is funded by a grant through the Fund for Lake Michigan. So we'll be documenting that as we go along, and all of our engineers that are working on the project, we're all learning a lot right now and documenting a lot of the procedures so that we can hopefully be replicating this in other areas of the city as well. The Public Works Department just issued an RFP for a comprehensive citywide green infrastructure plan. So that went out a couple weeks ago, and all of the proposals are due by the end of this month. So I'm very involved with that, working a lot on that. And then the other part of the green infrastructure initiatives is that we will be establishing a revolving loan fund specifically for green infrastructure. There's a lot of details to be worked out on that yet, so I don't have a date of when that will be ready to go, but we're hoping, you know, by early 2023 we have that ready. And then I guess lastly for green infrastructure, the the landscaping amendments to chapter 44 in the zoning code. Those are, they're still within the planning department. They'll need to go back to the Home Builders Association. And the new date is that they will go back to Plan Commission sometime in October. So that is all I have for those sort of updates. The only other thing I would say is and this is just a couple of general announcements. There's a WPS Energy Efficiency and Sustainability Forum coming up October 13th at NWTC. It's meant for businesses, primarily, industrial businesses specifically, but any business is welcome to attend. It's a morning session at NWTC. And then the Wisconsin Sustainability Business Council is having their meeting, their statewide meeting, November 16th at Lambeau Field in Green Bay as well. So I will be attending both, and maybe I will see some of you there. So yeah, those are my updates.
You send those links out too for those meetings?
Yeah, sure. What I can do is I can put the links for those meetings in the minutes so that everyone has access to those.
Great, thank you.
Any questions for Melissa before we go to announcements? Ned?
Thanks for the updates, Melissa. It sounds like a lot's moving for green infrastructure, which makes me really happy to hear. So DPW sent out an RFP, so I assume that had to be approved by council, right?
Well, I don't know.
Sorry, you're still muted. No?
No, that was not to send out an RFP. This was for a professional services agreement for engineering consulting services. So that doesn't go through council.
Okay. I'm
Once
just
we
curious
get all
if,
the proposals back in and
Mhm.
we have, and we choose a consultant, then there's more process to that, for INS and council before that gets approved, but just to send out the RFP.
okay.
But we were following the directive of the city council, because in May, that was part of, what was mentioned during one of the city council meetings was for staff to develop a green infrastructure plan for the city,
Mhm.
so that we have a game plan.
Right. Wonderful. Do you, what was the timeline on that? I just kind of want to keep aware of.
Oh, the proposals are due from consultants at the end of this month.
Okay.
And then, internally, we have processes to go through before it gets to INS.
Okay. Wonderful.
I do chair INS as well, so I'll be totally aware.
Cool. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we can move on to announcements. All right, move on to announcements. Anything folks would like to share with the group?
Seth, I would just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say,
Mark, you go.
Mark, yeah, it's the joke I always heard was, what does
Yes,
it hear with the dog say?
always.
Mark instead of bark.
Yeah.
Anyway, the county and the Tri-County region is launching a mobile app for recycling, and let's see if I can show this to you guys or not. Maybe not. Anyway, it's called Better Bin. It's a mobile app that allows you to scan any UPC code on any product, and it will tell you within, if you live in Brown, Outagamie, Winnebago County, or the areas where we serve, which is a lot more, it will tell you whether or not it's recyclable in our area and what to do with it. If it's, plastic lined box, it'll tell you to take the plastic out and throw that away and recycle the box, whatever. And it allows you to actually add items to the list, to the data. it is really pretty slick. I've been trying it now for a couple of weeks. We're going to have a big social media blitz on publicity over the next several weeks and a couple of months. I would encourage you all to try it, download it. It's available for Android or for Apple. Like I say, it's called BetterBin, BetterBin. And our goal with recycling is that we know we hit, hey, our age group, the people on the Sustainability Commission, not a problem with, knowing about recycling. The age group we're missing is the 18 to 35-year-olds. And so we're trying to do a variety of things to get their attention. But this is one of the neatest things I've seen. Something we've been working with the woman who developed this. I've been working with us. She's developed this program. They beta tested it in Plover, which is near Wausau, worked out really well. We tried it a little bit for our food waste organics program, but that didn't work very well because it just didn't, it didn't function this way. But like I say, this is pretty neat because you scan any kind of barcode on anything you may have at home or as you're buying it, and it will tell you whether or not it's recyclable in our system. And I mean, it's immediacy of recyclability. There are rewards, every time you scan something, you get a certain number of points, and eventually you can get some cards for different things. So there's a reward as well. And then, like I say, you can also scan things. If it's not in the system, you can take a picture of it, send it in. It'll actually update the database, but it's got a pretty robust database already. Pretty neat thing to try. So like I say, I'd encourage you all to give it a shot. If you have like kids who need to know more about this, tell them. Yes, Melissa, did you have a question?
I have a question. So
Yes, ma'am.
it works in Brown, Outagamie, and what was the other county?
Winnebago, the BOW, BOW. It's the Tri-County recycling system. So Brown and Winnebago own the recycling system. The municipal, material recovery facility in Appleton is owned jointly by the 3 counties. But if you live in Kewaunee, Dorr, Calumet, Southern Oconto, Shawano, most of Eastern Shawano, a little bit of Wapaka County, that they're covered by our region as well, even though they're not officially part of our region, but all that material comes to the Tri-County. And so it's relevant for those areas. If you search for the BetterBin app and then you look at Tri-County, it'll that's our official coverage area, is the Brown, Outagamie, Winnebago. You say, I know that we're getting, yeah, there you go, Ned. Hey, pretty cool, guys. Scan something. I've got like this is BioFreeze. It's got a barcode on there. Scanned it, tells me it's not recyclable in our area. Maybe in the future. You can also throw in suggestions on on other things. Scanned a pair of rubber boots we got for work today, and it was actually in the system, which was kind of surprising. Didn't it in there, but somebody else must have pulled it in. So yeah, anyway, give it a shot, pass it along. We're going to try to get big blitz out over time and see how well we do in terms of educating the public on this kind of stuff. So
that is really cool. Thanks for the update, Mark. Yeah, I just went in, created an account, scanned my LaCroix, and I already have 25 points.
there
So
you go.
competition now, and I think I'm winning. We'll see how many points we have in October. Cool. Any other announcements from folks? Also, welcome Julia to the meeting. We're in the announcements section at the very end here. If you have anything to share.
I'd like to share an update for the Green Bay Conservation Corps. So we had 3 members start on Monday, which is great. We are starting with the full-time members, so 6 in total. We've hired the 3 remaining positions as well. They just haven't started yet. So it was wonderful to be able to fill all 6 positions. We're continuing to recruit for the ongoing positions. So definitely feel free to continue to spread the word. And so as the program's beginning, they're going to start planning kind of more events and volunteer days and things like that, which would be shared on the City of Green Bay website. So that's very exciting. And I can't recall if I've already shared this, but thought I'd mention it in case I haven't, which is the city parks department recently created an Adopt a Trail or Adopt a Park program. So organizations, people, whomever is interested, department to adopt a park, and there's a certain amount of commitment, time commitment that we ask for those who want to adopt the park, and then I believe it's I should know either like 2 or 3 kind of times a year that you would at a minimum be out either picking up trash, helping with invasive removal and that type of thing. So feel free to spread the word on that as well.
I have a question for Corey. Corey, I'm on the Parks Committee as well, so kind of wild. But anyway, they were talking about an ordinance or some kind of a policy that the Parks Department is working on as far as the number of folks who have built inside of parks and parkways, like sheds or gazebos, things like that. And there's supposedly like 150 different instances throughout the city where that's happened. A lot of times people say, hey, I've been cutting the grass there for years. I'm taking care of it. I'm paying my taxes, but it's still city property. So it sounds to me like the Parks Department is working on a policy of some sort, and we're going to start, you hate to be the heavy hand here, but I don't know if you have any other information on that as far as how you guys are working on that.
Yes, I do. So what you're referring to is what we're calling encroachment within parkland. And we see a lot of that, especially near greenways, where you have homes that are adjacent, to these naturalized areas. We often find that people are mowing into these areas and kind of expanding the site. Whether or not they're using that extra space that's being mowed, who knows? But there are things too that we find, such as sheds. Various people stockpiling firewood or just putting piles of debris into the greenway and that type of thing. So yes, we have, I think the final step with getting this to pass as a policy for parks to start enforcing that folks stop maintaining the space and remove certain structures and things off the site. So we're planning to implement that in a somewhat phased approach because there is so much to deal with. And so we're going to kind of take it, we're going to look at specific areas to target, kind of so your neighbors are all in the know as well as we're approaching this. And so let's see, we just recently, I believe Parks Committee approved, or was it Parks? There was a step in the process, which was, I think we had to change the ordinance to allow us to issue, I don't know if citations are the right word, if you're not complying to what we're asking. So that I believe was approved. I think it was Parks.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if it's been through council yet. Perhaps.
I think we had council last night, so
it probably was.
The parks went right through the commission. Okay. There was no discussion. So obviously they like what we're doing, right?
Yeah. So the plan is to start enforcing that soon. Now, with fall coming upon us, and part of the issues being with mowing, it's getting to be a somewhat difficult time of year. By the time we issue notices to people and ask them to stop mowing, it might become difficult to know, have they stopped mowing? So we may delay some of this closer to spring so we can keep a better eye on the vegetation maintenance within the greenway. But really what we're trying to have the public understand too is that these greenways are almost always adjacent to a waterway, and the intention of it being greenway is for natural vegetation to naturally filter the water, help slow it down. And by either mowing it and converting it to turf grass and or a vegetable garden or putting a shed in within the floodway thing creates complications. And so just trying to educate people to understand why we have the greenways
Right.
and, you know, if they can help in letting it become naturalized,
Right.
then can do their job.
Education's key here because I'm getting calls, even though it's not in my district, but like Webster Avenue, for example. You know, they have all the natural grasses and that growing there, and some people don't like that. Oh, it looks messy, it's horrible. But you know, Public Works came through and described why that's important to have that. So I think as time goes on, hopefully people will start getting used to some of the changes that are going on and understand for sustainability, and it's good stuff. So that's one thing. I was going to bring up one other point that's more of a tougher situation. My wife and I, well, now I'm not going to be able to walk for a while, but I'll figure it out. But we hike on the West Side Trail, for example, and we love that trail. But lately we've had folks that are living or staying overnight in the trees, you know, off the trail, and there's litter and stuff like that. So I've talked to Director Ditchite about it. I have talked to the police, but if you have any ideas how to look at that and deal with that, we're giving vouchers to folks. You know, there are some people that don't want help; they just choose to live that way. But that's a bit of an issue because some people are afraid to walk the trails because they see the strewn clothes and the garbage, and every once in a while we'll see a person sitting there too. You know, and it's only maybe 10 feet off the trail, but it's hidden by the trees and that. So that's one issue that I have seen, and it's a tough one. You know, so we need to put our thinking caps on and see how we can work with that a little bit better as well. So that's what I've got. And Seth, I did want to mention that I did talk to one planner. In fact, Mark, you know him, Ken Jaworski. He's at Cedar Corporation. And he's got a couple of people that are working in the environmental area. And he says there's some young folks that live in Green Bay that are very much into a lot of this, and they might be some good candidates. So I'll get a few names together for you, and we'll send them out.
Awesome. Thanks, Alder Steuer, and thank you, Corey, for your update as well. Any other announcements from folks here today?
Sorry to bother Melissa with another question, but I was curious when the timeline, what that was looking like for the Green Infrastructure Revolving Loan Fund. I think that sounds really cool.
I'm not 100% sure yet, Ned. The reason why is there's so initially when we started, brainstorming about this, we thought, meaning like staff people from various departments, that it would be something available for businesses and potentially residents to utilize. But in the last several days, there's been an update to the PACE program, which is a program that's offered in various counties throughout the state. A county has to opt into the PACE program, and PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. This is a program that's been around for a really long time, and it's for businesses. For example, the Northland Hotel, they utilize PACE financing to be able to make a lot of the energy efficiency improvements when they did the renovation at the Northland Hotel. And there's lots of Green Bay businesses that have utilized that program for energy efficiency and renewable energy on their businesses. Well, in the last couple, I would say maybe 2 weeks, that program is going to be expanded, and I don't have all the details yet, but it's going to include green infrastructure. So that's why I'm not 100% sure what the timeline will be yet, because if PACE is going to be offering a loan program for businesses for all the same things that we would, that the city could potentially do, we might not need to offer a duplicate program.
Right.
But I need to find out exactly the details and what is eligible under Pace Wisconsin. And so there'll be some webinars coming up that I'm signed up for and I'm going to learn more. So I can't give you a time. I can't really say a timeline at this point because it might not, it might change
Okay.
depending on what we learn.
Was that one of the things that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act with like some of the?
No.
No?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Cool. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Well, Seth, I had one more question for Melissa. Or just a comment, we've gone, council has gone through a fairly extensive meeting on the ARPA funds that are out there. And I think we're down to about 4 to 5 million left. So we still have to earmark those eventually. And I was gonna ask Melissa if, I know we did some things, I think that way, but is there maybe some possibilities or initiatives or other things that you might like to see happen, and we might be able to put our energies toward that to try to ask for some more of that money?
Well, I believe there's still some left in the stormwater and climate, stormwater and resiliency bucket. So the rain barrel program, that is ARPA funded.
Right.
That was probably the smallest request
Yeah.
that was even proposed.
Right.
So, and we'd like to be able to do that again next year. So, I might be coming back with another request for another $40,000 or $50,000 to be able to do another rain barrel giveaway.
Right.
And then some of these other initiatives, for example, the RFP that I was talking about, that's not, that won't be an ARPA request. That's coming, that would potentially be from another source. So at this point, I really am relying on the direction of my director and, from some of the other, there's a lot of requests right now. They're still like in the refer to staff mode.
Right.
So I think it's kind of hard to tell how much will actually be left over once staff gets through
Okay.
doing what they need to do to evaluate those requests.
Sure. Okay. Well, I just wanted to throw that out just in
Sure.
case. Thank you.
All right, other announcements from folks. All right,
Julie, I don't know if you want to talk about it and give an update on the presentation we gave to council last month.
Sure, I can. I didn't know if you had done that already, so.
I hadn't. I was kind of thinking that would be a good one for you to talk about. It relates to your working group as well. So.
Sure, great. Well, thank you. So, I think it was was it last month? Wow. So that doesn't seem that long ago, but anyway, it was in August. We, myself, Melissa, and Kayla Wansnyder, who's with the Nature Conservancy and who helps lead the East River Collaborative, which is focused on flood resiliency in the whole watershed. We gave a summary presentation and updates on what's going on kind of in the East River and in Green Bay regarding flood resiliency. And it was an overview of the workshops that we held with staff over last winter, basically. And then an update of like how what other communities have been doing and kind of that focus. So, and then next steps for flood resiliency. So it was really well received, I think, from what I've heard, and we got some good feedback. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add to that though. And then Melissa, before I add another update. Hello?
No,
No, I didn't have anything else. I thought we had some really good questions though from council.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it was Alder Stoyer, maybe you're on council, so maybe you can,
Yeah, I haven't heard any negative comments from it at all. So, you think about that, what a long trip it's been in some ways, but they're starting to think more that way. And the bottom line is it's always the cost, what's it cost, the taxes, this and that. But if you can couch it in such a way that this is a benefit for the community now and into the future, I think your presentations lately have been very good with that, and I think folks are listening. I know I am, for sure.
Thank you. And then another update I had was that today, actually, I just met, we hired a graduate student to help us really dig into some of like the climate data and like how our weather's changing for Green Bay in terms of like precipitation and heat and stuff like that. And then we're gonna look more, take that information and kind of try to figure out how to map it or analyze it in ways that are more locally relevant. So I don't know, for example, you know, looking at precipitation, the Steve Grenier talks a lot about, you know, how these storms have become more intense, like the same amount of rain is happening over just like a few hour period rather than multiple days. So let's actually, you know, look at what's been going on and try to get some useful information for planning purposes for the city and if Melissa's building a flood resiliency. So we'll be bringing you information and I'll kind of be leaning on what the city wants and what we, you know, what kind of like localized information would be the best for doing some of this planning. You know, maybe doing some mapping of basement flooding, for example, or something like that. So, so that's really exciting, I think, because it's getting to some of the work plan items. And that's all I have.
Cool. Thank you, Julia, for the update. Sounds like a great presentation. Did we have any other announcements from folks? All right, hearing none, we could entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
So our next meeting is when?
Next month. I'm
Yeah.
not sure the date offhand.
Actually, it looks like October 19th.
That sounds about right. All right, we'll see you all on the 19th. We had a motion from Ned to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second. My puppy really wants to go outside.
Yeah, you ready to end this meeting? Dogs of Zoom. All right, motion by Ned, second by Amy. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those say nay. Opposed say nay. All right, have a good one, everybody.
All right. Take care.
Amy, my dog is sitting behind me sighing heavily because I'm
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
be
Well,
taking her.
this is what she was doing